Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to TCG University. It's me, Noah, here doing another review for Ice under Opus 19 from Nightmares for Final Fantasy TCG. We're just going to go ahead and kick this one off. We have Watch Roll, 2 CP 5k that just says at the end of each of your turns, gain a crystal. If you're playing a crystal deck, this card's super nuts. My rating will be 1 to 5, 1 being garbage, not playable, 5 being amazing. Almost always want to play it. Watch Roll, trying to think of how much crystal you play under ice. Now, if you're mixing ice with elements, it's super cool, but Watch Roll's also really weak. And I think he eats up a slot that he doesn't need to be eating up. So honestly, I'm going to put Watch Roll at probably a 2. I just don't see ice diving super heavy into crystals like water does or fire could. Water really dives heavy into crystals. But yeah, Watch Roll's at a 2 for me. I don't think this card's going to see too much play, and if it does, it's probably not going to stay around long enough to really make that big of an impact in the game. Maybe like a really cool turner. 2 turns spread out. Next, we have Vincent. Man, if we don't get enough of this card, I swear. 3 CP 7k Gunslinger. Watch Roll was a uke, my bad. When Vincent enters the field, choose up to 3 backups and freeze them. And then Dole, choose 1 character and freeze it. I think this card's cool. We did have the Opus 18 Vincent, I believe, 18 or 17. Numbers are really bad for me. That says on play, choose a backup, and it stays locked down as long as Vincent's on field, which is super cool. But I think this one, just freezing 3 backups, is really nice. Then his ability to constantly freeze a character means you can probably just keep him on board. He does the same thing, but he's a bit more versatile. And then we have Nightmare Shot. It's going to be ditch a copy, pay an ice, dull him, and then choose a forward and deal 8k damage. Very generic. Honestly, I put Vincent in any ice deck if you're going to play him. You probably play him at like a 1 of, maybe a 2 of. If you're getting spicy, you play 1 of each of them. I would put this card at a 3, no, 2.5. I don't see Vincent getting much play. I think casually is super cool. I just also, ice is a really hard element for 7 to really blend into. Because usually you're either going to do earth, fire, or lightning. I mean, there's ice, but there's no cohesive ice, in my opinion, realistically. Everything that's cohesive is like lightning, ice, lightning, and earth, fire. But yeah, and earth, wind, I guess. But yeah, currently, Vincent's going to be at like 2.5 for me. Next, we have Umaru. I love seeing Cat 6, but I still always feel like the 7 CP Umaru is the one to beat. 4 CP 8k, he has Brave. You can put him into the break zone as an action, choose a forward, deal it damage equal to Umaru's power. Discard 2 category 6 characters, play Umaru onto the field dull. You can only use his ability during your main phase and if Umaru is in the break zone. So essentially, you pay 4 CP, play Umaru, you can blow him up and essentially try to blow something else up, and then on your next turn, if you just have 2 cards you don't need in your hand that are Cat 6, you pay 4 CP again and play Umaru, but he comes onto the field dull from your break zone instead. I think he's really cool. I still would not play him over the 7 CP Umaru in my opinion. So sadly, I would probably put this card, especially because it's reliant on Cat 6, I would probably put this card at a 2 of. It's a real nice techie piece if you're playing a bunch of Cat 6 stuff, but otherwise, like if you're not playing Title, realistically, I don't think this is the Umaru you play. Next, we have Cloud of Darkness. It's always good to see some monster hate. 5 CP 9k, when Cloud of Darkness enters the field, choose a monster the opponent controls and break it. Damage 3, Cloud of Darkness gains Brave. I think the only cool text in this is the fact that it can break a monster on play, and it can survive a Ratsu, which is super nuts. This card's definitely above average at that point. It does cost 5, and ice, that's a little risky, but realistically, if you're playing ice, you're probably discarding and dull freezing your opponent's board just well enough that like paying for 1 5 CP forward that sits there really well and can probably remove a problem, because I think monsters are insane. We can get on that in the podcast. I think it's just really nice. So I'll put her at a 3.5 to 4. She's definitely above average for me. Shiva, 5. If an ice forward has entered your field this turn, the cost required to cast Shiva is reduced by 4. Choose 1 forward the opponent controls, dull it, freeze it, and draw a card. The Shiva package exists because of the 1-drop Shiva that does more things for the number of Shivas in your break zone, the one that shoots more for the number of Shivas in your break zone. This card free cast. Not only does it free cast itself just because you played an ice forward, it dull freezes something, obviously, but it also draws you a card, which I think is insane. Giving ice the discard element virtually the element that slows you down, the ability to be like, I'll slow you down and I'll gain advantage off of it, I think is insane. This card's an easy 5. Snow, 4 CP, 8k. If your opponent has 1 or less cards in their hand, Snow gains 2k power. When Snow blocks, your opponent discards 1 card. I don't know how I feel about this one. We have so many different Snows to go off of. Even the starter deck Snow I think is really cool, because he protects himself and Lightning from summons, which I think is insane. If your opponent has 1 or less cards in their hand, he gains 2k power. It's interesting, but it's very reliant on them having less cards, so you have to play a discard deck. And when he blocks, your opponent discards a card. Generally, they can probably dull or break him anyways because he's a 4 CP. Reading that out and thinking about it, Snow's probably a 2 of. He's really gimmicky. It's too much to really want to work around, in my opinion. Sarah Mobius. Sarah Mobius cannot attack or block. Boo. But you can get 3 different action abilities. You can either dull her, choose a forward, and give it 2k power until the end of turn. You can dull her, choose 2 forwards and dull them, or you can dull her and choose an auto ability. And if your opponent doesn't pay 2, cancel its effects. We're getting a lot of cool cards that say cancel auto abilities, which I think is nice. Every element needs it. I just don't like that it requires her to be dull, because they have to deal with, I mean, she's a 2 CP. 2 CP AK, which is really cool, but like she can't attack or block, so realistically the AK is just there to kind of keep her buffed up. But if they can deal with her on the next turn, what does it matter? Choose 2 forwards and dull them, I think is really nice. You dull 1 to dull 2 is just a fair trade all in all. I'd put this card at a 3 to 3.5. I don't really think that top ability is ever going to get used effectively. Trying to think if there's anything else cool about this card that I can like notice. She does have a full art. That's about it. Yep. 3 to 3.5. Sephiroth. 1. I would never play this card. We got a back attack Sephiroth that does literally the same thing but better. It's the Opus 18 Seph, is just a better version of this. It's a forward as well, so you have somebody you can attack with on the next turn that does things when he attacks. 6 CP back attack. The cost required to cast Sephiroth is reduced by 1 for each point of damage you receive. When he enters the field, choose a dull forward and break it. I'd rather just pay 4 and break a dull forward and then have a dude to block with. Kurlax. Another job Dream Stooge. Words are hard. 3 CP 6k. When a job Dream Stooge you control is put from field to break zone, your opponent discards a card. That's pretty cool. Pay 0, choose a forward, dull it, freeze it. You can only use this ability if you control a card named Mobius and card named Laragorn. I literally think I pronounced it correctly in the fire video. Now I can't. I'm doing these back to back. What the heck? And only once per turn can you do that ability. 2. He's got a really cool dual freeze ability, but it requires the other one, so that's kind of a hassle. And he's got a really cool discard ability, but it's also a hassle because it only relies on Dream Stooges, and there's only 3 of them. So, yeah, 2 of. I don't see the Dream Stooges being that important. Chocobo Eater. When Chocobo Eater enters the field, choose 1 forward to cost 2 or less the opponent controls, remove it from the game for as long as Chocobo Eater is on the field. He's like Death Gaze, but for a restriction. Instead of paying 3 to remove a forward as long as Death Gaze stays there, it's pay 1 to remove a 2 or less as long as Chocobo Eater's there. I think it's really nice. 2 cost forwards are definitely very scary, depending. I just don't know if you want to eat up a slot in your deck when you only have 50 cards for Chocobo Eater. I'd give this card a 2 to 2.5, but I'm very open to change that. Terra. 4. EX Burst, 4 drop, backup. When Terra enters field, select one of the 2 following actions. Choose a forward, deal AK damage. Pretty good. Ice does need some way of dealing with cards sometimes. Or choose summon your break zone, add it to your hand, and you get a summon back, which I also think is super nice. So easy 4, in my opinion. Tono, not Toho. 2 CP, a Jito Cadet. When Tono enters the field, choose a forward and freeze it. That's not bad, actually. No damage requirement, which is super sick. And then dull put Tono in the break zone. Your opponent discards a card, and you can only use this ability during your turn. She's a cooler version of Kazusa, in my opinion. You don't both discard. She does freeze something, so if they've already attacked, or it comes in dull, or it's dulled for whatever reason, 2 CP to freeze a dude isn't too bad, and you get a backup out of it. And her ability to break to discard it, again, isn't too terrible. I'd probably put her at a 3. She's very middling. 3.5. because she's an Agito cadet and you can search her out. Norstalin. When Norstalin enters the field, select one of the two following actions. Choose a category FFTCG forward, other than a card named Norstalin in your break zone, add it to your hand. It's pretty cool. Or choose a card named Waltrell forward in your break zone, play it onto the field. I hate that she has to work with the Waltrell forward. Otherwise, if she worked with the backup, I think she'd be really nuts. So, what I give Waltrell? Maybe a 2. I think Norstalin's a 1 because she requires Waltrell. Flan. When Flan is put from the field to the break zone, you may search for a card named Flan, add it to your hand. Pay 0 until the end of turn. Flan also becomes a forward with 3k power, and you can use this ability during your turn and only once per turn. 1. There's a better Flan that searches out Flans that makes people discard, and on top of that, this only becoming a forward on my turn feels terrible. I can't use him to chump block to then search for another Flan. Not worth it. Uke. Pre-release. He's super solid. Uke has first strike, 4-drop 8k. When he enters field, choose a dull forward. If the cost to cast Uke was paid with CP of 3 or more different elements, break it. 2.5 to 3. It is an ice. Ice can play triple elements pretty well. Ice is a very supplemental element when I think about it sometimes, but it can stand alone as well. But yeah, 2.5 to 3, depending on how you want to play it. Realistically, I think you gets cited out for way better cards, honestly. But in terms of just the value of the card, I think it's pretty okay. Next is Lean, 3 CP Scientist. When Lean enters the field, if your opponent has 1 or less cards in their hand, you may search for a card and add it to your hand. In a discard deck, this card's nuts. This card would be a 5 if you're playing for heavy discard. Otherwise, if you're playing for a little bit of slight discard and dull freezing a bunch, maybe a... Oh, God. Honestly, in any deck with discard, you should probably just play this card. If you can get your opponent down to 1 card in hand and then just be like, I'll play this back up and search for any card in my deck, especially in Ice, I think it's nuts. I'll give it a solid 4. That's where I'll stand with it. Last but not least overall, last one in Ice though, we have Numau. Numu? It's Cat 12. I tried playing that game and just couldn't get into it. 2 CP backup, dull, put it in the break zone, choose a character, dull, freeze it, and then at damage 3, when he enters field, your opponent discards a card. I think this card's actually really cool. Playing it in pre-release was super nice, especially because of the dull freeze on breaking them. So you also just don't have sticky backups, which I think being able to get rid of sticky backups are nice, or not having sticky backups are nice. I put this card at a 4. Ice is definitely going to go to damage 3. I don't ever see a game where Ice doesn't eat damage. Probably to 5 or 6 depending, because Ice is a little slow, needs a little bit of time to set up. Theodore does speed it up a bit more, but yeah, I'd put this card at a solid 3.5 to 4. I'm gonna add that 3.5 in there. Otherwise, that's all I've got. I think the MVPs of Ice are going to be Terra for sure, Shiva for sure, and honestly Cloud of Darkness. I think those are the 3 MVPs I would pick for Ice. Did you guys guess what the MVPs would be? Because 2 of them will always show up and 1 of them will be different. Otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed. James would say stay learnt. I still haven't developed a tagline, and I've been doing this for a couple years at this point. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, enjoy your day.